Previously, on the hidden blueprint, a secret was uncovered and everything is about to change. Get ready to dive deeper into the mystery. I didn't understand it, not fully, but I had a feeling I would, soon. The candle flickered violently, almost going out. I blew softly, and the flame steadied. Shadows danced again. I realized that in this strange, forgotten room, the shadows themselves seemed to want to speak, to hint at truths too dangerous for ordinary eyes. I found a folded piece of paper, smaller than the others. It had a single word written on it: "Look." I felt ridiculous, holding a scrap of paper like it was a sacred object. But curiosity had me unfolding it anyway. There, drawn in delicate ink, was a diagram, a circle divided into 3 sections, each containing a tiny symbol I recognized from earlier. The eye, the triangle, and something that looked like a key. And then, in the center, a single dot, perfectly black, almost as if it had been pressed with a seal. It seemed simple, but it wasn't. My brain churned, trying to understand its meaning. Why 3 symbols? Why the dot in the middle? I had an urge to copy it down, to memorize it, but part of me feared doing so. What if someone or something was watching, waiting for me to act? I put the diagram aside and returned to the manuscripts. One section caught my attention. Pages filled with writing that didn't read like words. It was almost musical, flowing in a rhythm I couldn't follow. Symbols intertwined with letters, numbers curling into themselves. I realized the text might not be meant to be read in a linear way. Perhaps it was experienced, felt, intuited. A soft scraping noise made me jump. I spun around, my candle illuminating nothing but walls, shelves, and shadows. I thought I had imagined it, but then came a second sound, so faint I almost didn't hear it. A whisper, like paper brushing against stone. I swallowed hard. The thought hit me. This place wasn't empty. Maybe it never had been. I forced myself to sit down on the cold floor. I couldn't stop now. Every instinct screamed to run. But curiosity, a dangerous, unstoppable curiosity, had its grip on me. Hours passed. I lost track of time. I found more scraps of notes, more diagrams, more patterns. Every discovery made the world outside seem smaller, trivial. I realized I was staring into a hidden architecture of power. And the more I saw, the less I understood. But I understood enough to know one thing. I was no longer just a visitor in this abandoned building. I had stepped into something alive, something old, something that had survived centuries in whispers and symbols. And now, I was part of it. I finally closed the journal, setting it gently on the floor. My hands were trembling. The room felt colder, the shadows deeper, and somewhere Far beyond the walls, I sensed a presence, patient, calculating, waiting. I didn't know who or what it was, but I knew it had noticed me. I sat in the cold, dusty room, my candle flickering as I tried to calm my racing thoughts. Each page I had read whispered secrets that had no place in ordinary life. And yet, they were here, calling to me like an echo from a distant past. My eyes fell on a small box hidden beneath the journal. It was wooden, worn with age, and locked with a tiny brass clasp. There was no key, just an intricate engraving of a spiral that seemed to twist inward forever. I traced the pattern with my finger, feeling the grooves. Somehow it felt familiar. Not from anywhere I had seen before, but like something buried deep in memory, like a dream half remembered. I realized I had been holding my breath. The room was silent, except for the faint hiss of the candle flame. I tried the clasp gently. It clicked. The box opened. Inside, I found a folded parchment and a small, curious object. A pendant shaped like an eye. But the pupil was a tiny, perfectly cut crystal. Light danced through it, scattering reflections across the walls. I picked it up carefully. It felt heavy in my hand, heavier than its size suggested, as if it carried weight not just physically, but in some unseen dimension. The parchment was covered in symbols I didn't understand. Circles, triangles, spirals, and arrows, all arranged in a sequence that suggested movement like instructions. The handwriting was the same as the journal, quick and urgent. At the bottom, a note. Do not trust what you see. The eye watches, but it also hides. I shivered. The eye, I murmured. The pendant, the symbol. Everything was connected. I looked around the room again. The shadows seemed thicker now, curling along the walls in shapes that almost resembled figures, tall, silent, observing. I told myself it was a trick of the candlelight, and yet the unease refused to leave. Then I heard it. A soft tap, almost like knuckles on wood. I froze. It came again. A slow, deliberate 3 taps. I wasn't alone. My mind raced. I considered leaving, but curiosity rooted me to the spot. Whoever or whatever was here, I wasn't ready to abandon the manuscript, the journal, the map. Not now. The taps stopped. A silence, heavier than the night itself, settled around me. I thought I heard a whisper, so faint I almost missed it. A single word. Follow. It didn't sound like a threat, but neither was it friendly. It was a command, a direction. Turned my attention back to the map. Maybe it held the answer. The symbols, the lines, the intersections, it must lead somewhere. My finger traced a path from one symbol to another, and then I saw it. A shape hidden in the intersections. Not a symbol, not a letter, but something I recognized instantly. The outline of the city I lived in. I leaned closer, heart pounding. My city, my streets, my buildings embedded in this centuries-old blueprint. And at the center of the map, marked with a tiny black dot, a single symbol, the eye from the pendant. It felt impossible. How could something so old, so hidden, know the streets I walked every day? I put the pendant over the dot on the map. Light reflected off it, striking a particular line of the diagram. Suddenly, I understood. The map wasn't just a map. It was a guide, a sequence of steps, a hidden path that had been waiting for someone to follow it. I didn't know where it led, but I knew I had no choice. I packed the journal, the map, the pendant into my bag. My hands were trembling, my mind a storm of questions and fear. And as I turned toward the door, I realized the shadows weren't shadows anymore. They had form, elongated shapes, subtle but unmistakable, watching me, moving closer. I swallowed hard and stepped out into the night. The air was cool and still, but I could feel eyes on me. Somewhere behind me, in the forgotten corridors of that building, something waited, patient, knowing, silent. The city streets were empty, the fog curling along the ground like fingers. I followed instinct, following the lines from the map in my mind. Each turn, each alley, felt like it had been prepared for this moment. Every shadow seemed to hide a story. Every flicker of light, a secret waiting to be discovered. And then I understood the danger I had invited. By holding the journal, by touching the pendant, by noticing the patterns, I had become part of a game that was older than me, older than the city, older than history itself. Somewhere, hidden in plain sight, the guardians of the past were still watching, waiting. And now, so was I. I couldn't turn back. Not now, not ever. Because the blueprint didn't allow it. And the eye that watched through time, through symbols, through shadows, had already chosen me. Subscribe for more.